Hi, this is PG of PG's Lumacy. In this tutorial, we will be making the Phalaenopsis, which is commonly known as the butterfly orchid. Please take note that in this video, we will only be making the flower itself. And I will be making a later video to show you how to make the other pieces to put together the entire plant that you saw in the introduction. The colors that we will be using for this project will be white for the petals and the sepals, and then for the lip we will be using wine colored bands, pink colored bands, and a few pieces of white bands. And for the stem we will be using burgundy colored bands. I will show you how to complete the project on a single loom, but the petals will be easier to make if you have two looms. And I will also be using the monster tail for some sections of the project, and you will also be needing some toothpicks to secure your pieces while making the other pieces. We will be making this project in three main parts. First will be making the petals, the second will be making the lip, and the third will be making the sepals. And then we will put together all the pieces. Let us start by making the petals, and these would be the two largest pieces on the project. And I will be showing you two methods in making the petals. As I said earlier, it will be easier to make the petals on two looms configured together to form an extended loom. So let me first show you how to do that. First, make sure that both your looms are in the rectangle configuration, which means that the pins will be aligned. And then also make sure that the arrows are pointing in the same direction, which means that the channels on the pins will also be pointing in the same direction. Turn both your looms upside down, and then you will use this end of the hook that came with the Rainbow Loom, it's called the base removal end, to pry the base pieces, these little base pieces of the loom. And then you will use these base pieces to connect the two looms. So you will place it in this section, and you will place the other base piece in this section. And that will be your extended loom. To lay out the bands for the petals, make sure that your arrows are pointing downwards. And we will only be using the lower part of the loom. We will be starting our layout from the 6th row from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And because I do a lot of counting, either from the bottom or from the top of the loom, I numbered my pins. On one side, they're numbered beginning from the bottom pin, and on the other side, they are numbered beginning from the top pin. And it makes it easier for projects where I have to start somewhere in the middle of the loom. And like I said, for this project, we will start at the 6th row from the bottom. Let's start by placing the first band. It will be a single band, and we will place it on this row, the 6th row from the bottom, and we will start on the 3rd pin from the left. And we will be placing it on these two pins. So we will place a double loop band, and to form that, we twist a band to form a figure 8, and then we fold it to itself, and that forms the double loops, and we will place it on these 2 pins. 6th from the bottom, 3rd from the left, and we'll place it on these 2 pins over here. Now we will add 4 single bands in a chain all the way to the bottom. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's 4 single bands all the way to the bottom. Let's do that again on these adjacent pins. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, let us place a diagonal band from this pin to this pin. And then place bands all the way to the bottom. 1, 2, and 3. Let's do that again on the other side. A diagonal band from this band to this pin, to this pin, and then bands all the way to the bottom. Now, let us place a band, a single band, from this pin to this pin. Okay, from this pin to this pin, and then add bands. Take note of how I add these bands. These are single bands. The last one will be a diagonal band from this pin to that pin. Okay, so that is the direction in which we place the bands. Let us do that again on the other side. It'll be mirrored on the other side. From this pin to that pin. Then add single bands going downwards. And then for the last one, we place it on this pin to this pin, a diagonal band. Okay. And now let us add bands on these 2 pins. And let's do that again on the other side. I like pushing my bands downwards so that it'll be easier to loop them later. Okay, now we will place a capping band on these 2 pins on the center. And we will use a single band that is looped 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. You will see this capping band. It is looped 3 times on these 2 pins. Let us add horizontal bands that will hold the pieces together and also define the shape of the petal. And take note of how we place our horizontal bands. The first one will be on these 4 pins. And the second one will be on these 4 pins. You will see that these 2 center pins get both the bands from the sides. We will do that again for this row of pins. It is the 3rd row from the bottom. 1 band on these 4 pins and another band on these 4 pins. Again, these two center pins getting both the bands. And for this row, the fourth from the bottom, we will place a single band on all 6 pins. Okay, stretched across all 6 pins. And this is now the layout for the petal. You might want to pause the video and compare your work with the one on the screen. Now let us loop the bands for the petal. Starting with this capping band, we will loop the bands on this side of the petal first. So get your hook into this pin and grab the single band, the horizontal band, and loop it to the pin next to it. Then we will loop the rest of these bands on the outer side. Be careful with this band because it is stretched more than the others. Be careful in looping it so it doesn't break. Now let us loop these bands. And let us loop the middle bands. Now, there is a reason why I looped the bands on one side first, because as soon as I'm done looping these bands, I would like to get at least these outer bands out of their pins. Okay, and maybe also get these bands out of their pins. The reason for that is because I am moving these end loops to this pin. And if I did that without getting these bands off the looms, they might get stretched too much and they might break. So I am now moving all of these bands to this pin. Okay, make sure you get all the bands in there. Okay. We move the end loops from here to here. Now, let us loop the bands on the other side. Like we did on this side, let us start with the capping band and loop this band to here, and then loop the outer bands. Now let us loop these inner bands. Finally, let us loop this middle bands. Now, all our end loops are gathered together on this one pin. We will loop this double loop band to itself. Okay, go into all these bands. carefully pull out the double loop band and then loop it to its forward pin. Okay. And here's where you need your toothpick, because we are setting this piece aside as we prepare the other pieces. Insert your toothpick into the end loops and then pull the piece off the loom. You might want to use your hook and just pull it off the loom. Okay, make sure that the top loops are secured on the toothpick. This is your petal piece. Stretch it out. Okay, it has a roundish shape that tapers towards this end over here. So stretch it out. And for the second petal, I will show you the other method using the single loom. Let us now make the petal on a single loom for the benefit of those who only have one loom. And we will start by placing a single band beginning from the 5th pin from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you numbered your pins, that will be easier for you. So place a band, a single band, from the 5th pin to the pin below it. And then add bands all the way to the bottom. These are single bands that we are adding. Next, let us place a diagonal band from this center pin to this pin, and then add bands all the way to the bottom. Then for the outer side, let's add a diagonal band from this pin to this pin, and then add bands and when you get to this section, you will place a diagonal band from this pin to this pin, and a horizontal band on these 2 pins in the bottom. Now add a capping band on this pin, and it will be looped 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Let us add our horizontal bands. Now take note of this step. You will add a single band and you will place it only on this pin and let it hang to the side. And then add a single band across these 3 pins, second from the bottom. Let's do that again for this row, the 3rd row from the bottom. Place a single band on this pin, let it hang to the side, and then add a single band across all 3 pins. And for this row, the 4th from the bottom, just add a single band. Okay, now let us loop the bands for this half of the petal. Let's start with the capping band that we placed. We will go into this capping band and grab this single band, get it off the pin, and then loop it to the middle pin. Okay, and then we will loop these outer bands. Make sure you grab the right one here. It's the one on the top. Okay. And you will know that you grab the right one because of this neat V or teardrop shape that is formed. Loop the rest of the outer bands. Then for this last one at the top, you get it out of the pin and then loop it to this pin on the right. Okay, be careful. This will be stretched tightly, so be careful with this band. Now let us loop these bands. Okay, and lastly, let us loop these bands on this side. Now you insert your hook into these top loops and pull the entire piece off of the loop. Okay, and keep it on the hook. We will now work on the second half of the petal. This time, you will start with the 6th pin from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is the pin that we numbered 6. And we will place a double loop band on these 2 pins. Twist, fold to itself, and place on the pins. Now add single bands all the way to the bottom. Next, add a diagonal band from the center pin. Okay, I almost made the mistake of placing it here. It is actually from this pin to this pin. Okay, take note of that. Not on this pin, but on this pin to this pin. Then you add the single bands all the way to the bottom. Now again, for the outer bands, go from this pin to this pin. And then add single bands. When you get to the last one, it will be a diagonal band from this pin to this pin. Then a horizontal band on these bottom pins. Now let us place this piece, the other half, on the layout. Starting with these top loops, we will place them on this pin. Okay. Make sure they're all secured. Place them on this pin. Make sure you get all of them there. I'll try to remedy this situation. There you go. Okay. We just saved it. One of my loops slipped out of the pen, but we were able to solve that situation. Okay, now make sure you push it down so it won't slip off. Now you will grab this capping band and you will pull this entire piece and place the capping band on this pin. So grab the capping band. There are 3 loops on it. Pull it and then place it on this pin. Okay. Make sure that your piece is not twisted. Let's work on this horizontal band. Remember this horizontal band that we placed? We will place it on these 3 pins. Okay. Next, okay. The tendency for you is to flip this like so and place it here, but you will have a twisty section over here if you do that. So you don't do that. You make sure you pull this end out. Okay, use a toothpick to pull it out. See that? We don't want it getting all twisted up. We placed it on these 3 pins. And then we also grab the other end, the end of this band. We also place it. Okay. Use your hook to grab the end of that band. There it is. And then you place it on this pin. Okay. Now let's work on this one. Okay. Place it. This is the band that we left hanging on the side. And then we also need the end of this band. We need to place it on this pin. Okay, this is the challenge with working on a single loom. We need to duplicate what we can do on the extended loom. So basically what we did is the horizontal bands that we prepared with the earlier piece, we placed them on this other half. So if I could just stretch them out for you to see, the horizontal bands are all in place. Okay, I hope you don't get confused with this. Just go over the video again if it gets confusing. Now, let us loop these bands. Go into the capping band and grab the band on top. It would be this horizontal band, and loop it to this pin on the center. And then loop the rest of the bands on the sides. Grab the one on top. If you don't get this neat teardrop shape, it means that you got this band instead. So just redo your work. Okay, now let us work on these bands. And let us work on these bands. And with this in the way, it's easy to skip a band. So make sure you don't skip any of the bands on this side. Let's start with the bottom. Go into the capping band again. Loop. Then next it's this band, then this band, and that one. So all our loops are again gathered on this pin, and we are ready to loop this double loop band into all of them. Okay, very carefully go to the bottom of the layers and then grab this double loop band, get it out of the pin, and then loop to its forward pin and pull the piece of the loom, and that's your second petal, just like the first piece, identical pieces, but this one was made on a single loom and this one was made on an extended loom. And if you have two looms, you could use that method. If you have only one loom, then of course you will use this method. To make the piece for the lip of the flower, we first need to prepare these side pieces, the pink side pieces. And to do that, we place a single pink band on these two pins. This is the third from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, and this pin, a single band. And then we place a double loop band on these bottom pins. So you twist, fold to itself, forms the double loops, and you place it on these pins. Okay. And then we place a capping band on this pin and loop it 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will loop the bands upwards, starting with the capping band, and then we grab the double loop band, loop it to the forward pin, and then grab the single band and loop it to the forward pin. And then we pull this entire piece off the loom. Okay. If you have a fine crochet hook, you could use it to even out the stretch on this capping band. Just insert your fine hook on all 4 loops. Okay. And then pull and then spin the band on the hook like so, just to even out the stretch, and it will give you a neater piece. Okay, so you will need 2 pieces of this. We can now make the main piece for the lip, starting from the 5th pin from the bottom. Grab a single wine colored band and form a double loop band, twist, fold to itself to form the loops, and then place it on these 2 pins. Then make another double loop band and place it on these pins. Okay. Now grab a single wine colored band and place it on the next pins. And for the sides, you will be using the pieces you prepared earlier. And make sure they are facing downwards. Place one on this pin and the center pin. Okay. And then place the other one on the other side. Make sure they are pointing downwards, like so. Okay. Then, for this center pins, you will grab 2 white bands for this section over here. Okay. And then, for the sides, wine colored band, single. Place it on this center pin to this pin. And do that as well on the other side. And then you will place a capping band on this pin, wrapped 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So that is the layout for the lip. And you need to add a horizontal band, a double looped horizontal band across these 3 pins. So form your double loop band and place it across these pins over here. Okay, let us loop this piece. Go into the capping band, grab the band that's on top. In my case, it is this band. You will see the teardrop shape, the neat teardrop shape. And grab the next band, and that would be this band on the other side. And then grab the 2 white bands in the middle, and then loop to the forward pin. Okay, and then grab this wine band in the middle, and then grab the pink band on one side, loop to the center pin, and then grab the other pink band on the other side and loop to the center pin. Then go into all these bands and grab the double loop band and loop it, and grab the next double loop band and loop it. Okay. So that's the layout for the lip. Now you pull it off the loom. Okay, then stretch it out. Just even out the pull on the bands. Stretch it out. That would be the lip part. Okay. This is the top part of it, and this is the bottom part of it. Grab a toothpick and secure the end pieces. And set it aside until you are ready to assemble your piece. Now we can put together the petal pieces and the lip piece. And to do that, I take away the side pin bars, just so they're out of the way. Because I only need one pin bar for this part. And it's up to you how long you want your stem to be. You could actually fill the entire length of the loom with double-sided burgundy bands. But I don't need a really long stem, so I will start placing my double-looped burgundy bands from the 6th pin from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from here. So I just place my double loop band, and another way of making double loop bands would be to place a single band on 2 pins, twist on one end, and then loop it back. And that will also form a double loop band. So we will keep on adding double loop bands until we get to the bottom. Now we will add our petal pieces. And I would like for my petal pieces to be placed in such a way that the end loops will be like dovetailed into each other. So to do that, I grab the toothpick and pull it only from one of the end loops, and I keep it on the other side. I grab my hook and then place the loops on the pin. Okay, and then I just keep the other end loops on the toothpick for now. I do the same for the other petal. I pull the toothpick only from one side of the loops, being careful not to get them undone. Okay, I keep one side of the loops on the toothpick, and then I grab my hook and then place the end loops on the pin. Now I grab the other end loops on the other side, get the toothpick out, and then place them on the pin. Now you see why I took away the other pin bar, so they're not in the way. Likewise, I place my hook on the other end loops, get the toothpick out, and then place it on the pin. So why did I do that? That is so the end loops will be dovetailed into each other, and we will have a more balanced appearance of the petal. Because if we did not do that, then one petal would be, to the front, and one petal would tend to veer to the back if we did not dovetail our end loops like so. Now we grab our lip piece, and remember I told you that this was the top portion. We will turn it upside down, so it will be facing downwards. And if you can place it directly from the toothpick, then go ahead. But if not, you grab your hook and get the loops on the hook, and then place on that pin as well. So now we have our petal pieces and our piece for the lip all on this one pin, and it will be a heavy group of bands over here. So now we go all the way to the bottom of all these bands because we are grabbing this double loop burgundy band. See, it's over here. We go all the way to the bottom, then we grab the burgundy band, and then we loop it to the forward pin. And then we will loop our double loop bands all the way to the top. Grab a burgundy colored band and then get it into the top loops. Tie a knot to secure, and then you could pull the entire piece of the loom. Okay, just stretch the pieces. And I would like for this lip to bend a little bit downwards. So what I do is I grab my tweezers and then pull these bands outwards. Okay, so that will bend my lip downwards, and then I go to the back side and this time pull out on these bands. So with that, you will have the lip at an angle. Okay, bend a little bit downwards, but pointing forward, like so. So we are ready for the third part, which is to add the sepals for this flower. Let us make the piece for the sepal. From the 6th pin, from the top, you place a single band. And then keep on adding bands in this manner. And for the last one, you place a diagonal band from the center pin to this pin on the right. Now let us add bands on the other side. We will mirror what we did on the other side. Then from this pin to this pin in the center, we add a single white band. And we do that on the other side as well. And then we add bands again, single white bands, all the way to the bottom. And I like pushing down on one end of my bands for easier looping later. Now we add a capping band on this center bottom pin, and it will be looped 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will also place double looped horizontal bands on these rows. First on this row, second from the bottom, we add a double loop band. And then on this row, fourth from the bottom. that is another double looped band. Let us loop these bands, starting with the capping band. Go into the capping band and grab the single band that's on top, and it will be this band over here. Okay, and then loop to the top, and loop the diagonal bands, and then let's loop these bands on the side. Okay, finally, this other side. Now grab a toothpick and insert it on these top loops, and then pull the entire piece off the loom. Stretch out your piece. And this is the piece for the sepal, for the flower. You will need 3 pieces of this. Now to put the sepals together to form a calyx, we will use the monster tail. And to do that, we will place the end loops of the sepal pieces on the pins of the monster tail. Very carefully take the toothpick off just one side of the piece, keeping the loops on the toothpick for the other side. And then using a hook, place the loops on the pin. Okay, and then carefully get the toothpick out of the other side. Insert your hook, being careful not to get it undone. Place those loops on this pin. Okay, that is your first sepal piece. It's on these 2 pins. Now let us place the next sepal piece on these 2 pins. Okay, get the toothpick off one of the sides, keep it on the other, insert your hook on those loops, and then place on the pin, overlapping the loops that are already there. Okay, and then place the second set of loops that's on the pin, that's still on the toothpick. Get the toothpick out, replace with the hook, and then place on this pin. So the first one went to this pair of pins, the second one on these 2 pins, and the third one on these 2 pins. So again, get the toothpick off and then replace with a hook and then place on the pin like so. Okay, and then get the toothpick out. Use your hook to place it on the pin, and then push it down. Okay, and you will see them on the bottom side like so. And these are the 3 pins that you place them on. On these 3 pins, we will be placing double looped bands. So twist and then, let me do that again. Place a single band, twist, and loop back. That's 1 double loop band. Now on these pins, place on the pins, twist, and loop back. Okay, now let's place it on these pins. Place a single band, twist, and loop back. So now you have 3 double loop bands on these pins. Now grab only the bands from the sepals, grab all of them, and then loop them over the pins, leaving the double loop bands on the pins. Okay, let's do that again. Grab only the bands from the sepals, loop over and inwards. Okay, we are grabbing only the bands from the sepals here. Okay, I'm making sure I'm getting all of them. Okay, over and inwards. Okay, now we are going to gather all of these end loops together on one pin. Okay, it could be any of the pins as long as you gather all the loops together. Start with these loops. Okay, note that I'm pulling down on these so they're not going to slip off. Okay, grab these loops and then move to this pin, and grab all of these loops and then move to this pin. So we gathered all of our loops together on this pin, and you grab a white single band, go into all the loops. Okay, grab your single band, get it into all those loops, tie a knot, and secure. And then pull this entire piece of the monster tail. Okay. And there you have your sepals. Okay, joined together, and they form the calyx for the orchid. Okay. Now I flip it over so that the band that's securing them is up top. I insert my hook into this bottom section over here, this tight section over here. It has to be this tight section over here because this will hold the stem. See, we got it out. And then we grab the petal and the lip piece. And we are not going to pull this entire piece using this band because I'm sure it will break. We are going to use these bands instead. So we are going to get our hook into all of these loops from this double loop band and then pull the entire piece into the calyx or the sepals. Okay, pull until you get it out the other way, like so. Okay, once it's there, just pull. Okay, and then make sure that 2 sepals are pointing downwards and 1 is pointing upwards. Pull. Okay. And fine-tune the shape. Okay. Just for a neater piece, I tuck in this band that we used to secure the calyx or the sepals together. I just stuck it into one of the petal pieces just to hide it. Okay. There you have your Phalaenopsis or the butterfly orchid.